guys! Today I'm going to be giving you guys my Tomb Raider movie review and I'm really excited. So I have basically been a Tomb Raider fan since I was very young. I basically played the games during primary school, the old Tomb Raider games. Obviously I was quite young when they first started coming out, so I grew up with the kind of Legend, Anniversary, Underworld series, and I am a huge fan of the reboot game series that started in 2013, as you guys can see. I have basically been waiting for this movie for ages. I heard that it was in the works a couple of years ago, and ever since then I was so pumped. Like I said before, I basically grew up loving Tomb Raider. I can't even put into words how much I love Lara Croft and how much I love her adventures and how much I love her story and how much I love everything about every single game that I've played so far. Being a really big Tomb Raider gamer, I'm going to be bringing out my review in two parts. So the first kind of review that I'm going to be giving you guys is the review that I would give this movie if I was just like an average moviegoer, you know, without like regards to the video games. And then in the second half of this video, I'm going to be reviewing it as a very loyal fan to the new reboot series, and I'm going to be talking about specific things that I really liked about the movie or things that I wish that they would have kept in from the game. I'll be both giving you guys a non-spoiler and a spoiler review. Please subscribe if you haven't already and make sure to comment and like this video if you enjoy its content. So for those of you who aren't big gamers out there or who don't really know anything about Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider series is basically a video game franchise that started out in 1996 and created about 7 games all the way up to 2003, which was sort of like the first kind of batch of video games that they brought out. And then back in 2006, they created an additional 3 games, which kind of rebooted the series again after the kind of flop of Angel of Darkness back in 2003. They brought the series back, they kind of changed the storyline for 3 games, and then basically back in 2013 they started the series again with a kind of completely new look, with a completely new sort of dimension of it. They changed her personality. They basically gave her a very deep and depth-filled backstory that was supposed to explain, you know, the way that she became the Tomb Raider and the person that she is. The video game franchise has been incredibly successful and is well known for Lara Croft having kind of out of proportion boobs and a nice butt. She puts her 2 pistols, which are her kind of signature guns, in 2 holsters by her thighs. You probably all recognize her from the picture, and if you don't, then you should, because Lara Croft is a very big iconic video game hero, and there's a lot to be said about her, but I'm not here to talk to you guys about the video games. But I do just want to quickly mention that this movie is based off of the 2013 reboot. So yes, it is a video game adaptation. So what this movie is basically about is a girl called Lara Croft who lives in London. It is assumed that she basically comes from a very wealthy family, and she has a very big inheritance waiting for her. However, she has decided to not take it. She's kind of living on her own, trying to sustain herself, trying to create enough money, and that's kind of where the movie starts off. You sort of see a bit about her life. It's basically about her trying to find out what happened to her father. So her father disappeared years and years ago, and the two of them had a very special bond, and so she ends up traveling across the ocean to this island called Yamatai, which is out near Japan in the Devil's Sea, and that's basically where her adventure kicks off. There's a lot of tomb raiding, there is a lot of action, there's a lot of family tension, and it is just a really great story which really portrays the love between a father and a daughter really well, while also keeping the action and the adventure really high. So if I would have to rate this movie as a normal moviegoer, I would give this movie a 7 out of 10 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a very likable movie. Alicia Vikander was a very likable Lara. She gave her a really relatable and likable personality, although in my opinion I do wish that they would have showed more of her personality. Another reviewer, don't remember her name, she talked about how she believed that in the movie Lara's personality was more portrayed by her relationship with her father. There wasn't that much of Lara, but what we did see of her I really enjoyed. I thought she was a very badass heroine. All of the stuff that she did, all of the decisions that she made were very understandable, and that's also what I really like about this movie, is that, for example, in the old Tomb Raider games it was very common for Lara to just whip out her pistols and shoot a bunch of people or shoot a bunch of stuff, and she was very cold-hearted about it. Now, I don't personally believe that she is cold-hearted, but the reboot series and also this movie really did make an effort to show why Lara becomes the way she is, why she sort of starts being able to kill people, why she acts the way she does, and I think that this movie did a really great job portraying that. There are some people that thought that the beginning of the movie was quite long and it kind of dragged on a bit because a lot of the scenes were in London and it kind of built up towards her actually going off to Yamatai, and it sort of shows the way that her life is going, and I actually disagree with it. I think that the beginning was very, very well done. I thought the pacing was really great. I like how they kept the beginning slow just because I felt like it was necessary to sort of show us how Lara is living, who her friends are, you know, what her occupation is, the fact that she's really kind of struggling to get by. On the island itself, I think the action was really great. I personally would have maybe liked a bit more action. I would have enjoyed to see her struggle just like a tiny bit more, becoming the Tomb Raider that she is. But all in all, it was really well done. Some of the action sequences defied physics, and I know a lot of people have already mentioned this, but again, it is a Tomb Raider movie. If you guys haven't seen the 2 Tomb Raider movies with Angelina Jolie that came out in the early 2000s, you should go watch them. They're pretty funny and they're great. So yeah, that is just Tomb Raider for you, so I'm not going to complain about it. That's just the way it is. Another thing that I kind of was a tiny bit disappointed with was the character of Lou. Now, Lou is basically the man that Lara travels with. I personally just didn't really see the connection between the two of them. He was supposed to be like her only friend on the island. I personally didn't feel like he added a lot of depth to the movie. He was kind of just like a stand-in figure that kind of added a bit of comical relief. I would have really wished to see more of their friendship, to see more of why the writers decided to bring Lou onto this island. Like, what is his purpose besides just like being there and being friends with her and being the one person who doesn't want to kill her, you know? And one last thing that really kind of just was a tiny bit disappointing, and that for me is the lack of female actresses in this movie. So you have Lara, you have her best friend, and that's about it, like, and Anna. But other than that, there are no female characters, not on the island, not in London. And I understand that, like, to a certain extent, right? Like, Yamatai was not, there weren't really any women there in the video game either. But I think that that's just something that is kind of bothered me like a tiny bit, the lack of female representation in this movie. I really hope that they change that for the second movie if there is going to be one. Like, yeah, it's just, I personally believe it's very important. Now, into some spoilers. If you guys haven't seen the movie yet, I'm going to be putting up a picture of the Tomb Raider poster over here until the spoilers are over so that you guys can continue watching this video and then watch the part where I sort of get more into the video game details. So, from a kind of unbiased point of view, you know, not taking into account the fact that I really love the video game series, I think that the way that they portrayed Himiko was actually really interesting. Basically, people just assumed that she was going to be this tyrannical, evil goddess who, you know, was gonna basically set all hell loose on the island. I think that that was pretty expected, and it was an interesting turn of events to see her sort of just being this disease carrier who kind of killed herself, you know, to basically save mankind. It was a very interesting concept. I personally feel like they could have added a bit more suspense to the movie. I would have liked to keep it a bit more mysterious, maybe at the beginning when they were still trying to figure out like what this island is and what's going on. I also personally found the fact that her father was on the island and then, you know, kind of ended up dying in the end, I felt like that was really cliche. The moment I saw her father, I was like, it is like so obvious that he's gonna die. And of course he died, he protected everyone. And that is personally just like a trope that I maybe would have liked to not see. It kind of just made the ending a tiny bit predictable, but it was really great to see Lara and her dad reconnecting, her actually seeing her father for a last time, you know, and have him catch up on what he missed, basically. What I did really like about the movie, though, was the fact that they kept the ending a cliffhanger. Now, Anna obviously turns out to be evil, and Lara figures that out at the end, and I thought that was a really great twist. I thought it was really interesting, and I obviously loved the ending scene where she gets her 2 pistols. It really just goes to show that they're really gonna bring out the iconic Tomb Raider figure in the next movie, if there will be a next movie. I thought that was really great, and I absolutely cannot wait for the next movie. So those were the spoilers. Now, I am going to be talking about this from a video game perspective. After all, this is a video game adaptation. If you personally really like the movie as a video gamer and you thought it was a really faithful adaptation and you don't really want to see someone rant about it, then maybe you should leave, because I do have quite a lot of things that I would like to rant about. If you guys thought it was like off the charts great and you don't want to hear anyone complain about anything, then maybe just go, because I've got some stuff to say. So like I said before, I am a huge fan of the 2013 reboot game. I think that personally it is probably the best video game out there. I know a lot of people might disagree with that, but I feel such a connection with the storyline and the way the gameplay works. I really, really love the kind of island survival feel to it. I thought it's great. I personally really love the way that they showed an emotional Lara who also had to struggle with, you know, saving her friends and making sure that she wasn't going to be eaten alive. Now, I've heard people on Twitter, on YouTube, on other kind of social media platforms talk about how they thought that it was a very, very, very faithful adaptation to a video game. Now, personally, I have not seen many video game adaptations. I think the only ones that I really have seen were the Tomb Raider movies that came out way back. I heard that Assassin's Creed wasn't that great, so I obviously am not in a position to really compare other kind of video game adaptations, and I have heard that this movie is a really great video game adaptation, and I do have to say though that in accordance with her outfit, with the kind of general aesthetics, with some of the scenes, there were a lot of visual similarities between the games. A lot of it was the same, but I don't think this was a faithful adaptation at all. Okay, they kept in Trinity, which I'm really, really pleased about. I'm really glad that they kept in, you know, Lara's outfit, the way that she kind of looked, the way that she had to survive on the island for like a tiny bit. I really liked the boat scene when she had to jump off. That was great because that's basically the opening sequence of the Tomb Raider game. When I first heard that they mentioned Himiko at the beginning of the movie, I was literally like about to cry just because I was so happy that they were putting that part in it. But other than that, it was not faithful at all. It wasn't faithful. They took about maybe 10% of the source material and 90% of it was just like complete creative liberty. Don't get me wrong, I'm not someone who's here to nitpick things. I'm not someone who's gonna hate the movie if it's not identical to the source material. I don't generally mind creative liberty that much if it makes sense. But in this case, I just had a lot of issues. And the first issue starts with Lara's friends and the crew. You know, Roth and Sam and Alex and Reyes and Jonah and Dr. Whitman and Gibbs and just generally all of those characters that basically shaped Lara to be who she is were all missing. I mean, they basically took only Lara and her dad and Matthias. Those were the only 3 characters that they kept from the original video game. 3 out of like 10 or something. And that was just incredibly disappointing to me. It was so incredibly disappointing. You know, Lou, he was funny, he was okay, but he was not a great companion to Lara. He didn't really do much. He just sort of, yeah, like I said before, added comic relief. And the fact that they basically just put in this bland character and took away all of the other characters that just gave the game so much depth and so much meaning just really broke my heart. Why? The video game story is amazing. It is like borderline horror at times and really mysterious and really dark and deep and like survival and like just really pushes you to the max. And I feel like they kept none of that in it. You know, like in the movie, now this is a spoiler again, I'm gonna really quickly put the image up again. So basically in the movie, like I said before, Himiko just turns out to be this woman. Maybe she was some sort of like, she had a high position or something in the Japanese sort of society, but she basically ends up committing suicide. I think that's what I gathered, because she was a disease carrier that would have like basically spread a kind of epidemic throughout the entire country, and she's sort of seen as a hero. What I really liked about the video games, Himiko was an actual goddess. Like, she was an actual force to be reckoned with. She was this mysterious, supernatural power that basically kept the island a slave, and all of the people a slave to the island. She was basically really cool. When you first heard about her, you were like, whoa, she's really awesome. But then the more you learn about her, the more you realize how twisted the whole island is. All of the people are a cult. They all worship her. They kill people for her. And they basically find Sam as like the next sort of reincarnation of her. Or not like that, she is the reincarnation, but they want her to be the next reincarnation of Himiko. And they basically just turned this really great, mysterious, like I said before, borderline horror game, you know, where Lara gets strung up at the beginning and she's about to be butchered and she sees all of these dead bodies and it's just really gross. And they just took that away and they just made it about a disease carrier. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that. I think that that's really, really silly. I feel like that really took away the element of mystery and supernatural forces of Yamatai, and they basically just minimized that. I think that that was really stupid and really ridiculous. Now, I understand that obviously in the video game you do a lot of jumping around, a lot of, you know, bow and arrow shooting, sneak attacks, gun attacks, and I understand that they couldn't have done that like in the movie because obviously you spend about 20 hours of gaming, and obviously you need to have a continuous storyline, a continuous plot. But the overall plot of the game where, you know, Lara has to go save Sam, where Lara has to basically figure out how to get them off the island, where Roth is basically just this loving father figure that you just, it hurts you so much when he dies. Like, it really hurts. Like, my heart broke when he died. When I saw him die for the first time, I couldn't. It was too much. Why not just keep that storyline? I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even explain it, but they basically kept nothing of the storyline, which is really disappointing. Like I said in my spoilery part, I'm not going to spoil anything. They really just took away the sense of mystery, the sense of, like, there's something wrong on this island. Like, there's something deeply wrong with the people on this island, and I really liked that feeling when I was playing the game. It put you on so much suspense. It's kind of borderline horror, but not in a disgusting way, just in a kind of, there's something wrong, you know, kind of way, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. You know, those moments where your heart just like does a leap because like something jumps out at you or something. I really like that. I think that's great, and that was just really, really missing from the movie. I also just didn't really like the fact that they sort of took out the survival effect, the need to survive from the movie. Like in the video game, she takes a lot of time to like kill something, to eat, to find herself something to drink and stuff, and it takes her a while to get settled on the island. Like, it's a really hard process for her, and I feel like in the movie they just kind of minimized that as well. Like, she had a backpack full of stuff. I don't know, like, they just took that away from that as well. If you haven't seen Rise of the Tomb Raider, don't listen to this next part, but I don't like the fact that they revealed Anna's like evil identity for like already now in this movie. I think that was really too soon. I suppose they needed a cliffhanger for the movie. I mean, like I said before, it was a really great move on the kind of movie aspect. Seeing it from a video game loving perspective, I thought that was really silly. They should have waited a while. I think that from a video game perspective, like if I'm actually seeing it as like an adaptation and not just like as a good movie, I think that I'd give this movie a 4 out of 10 stars, or maybe even 3 out of 10 stars. I don't understand why people think it's faithful adaptation. It is not a faithful adaptation. There was no sort of hint of the plot in the storyline besides the fact that they're on Yamatai, she goes to Yamatai, and her dad is involved in some way. Okay, and again, another spoiler. Why was her dad alive? Like, what the actual fuck? Like, I'm sorry, but her dad is supposed to be dead. The entire point of the Tomb Raider series and the Rise, like, game is that Lara basically like thinks that her dad is ridiculous for killing himself, and she doesn't really forgive him, and he's dead, right? Like, she knows all about his work, but she doesn't believe him. And then the adventure sort of sets her off on an adventure to figure out the other kind of stuff that her dad was doing. And that's what I really liked about the video game series. I feel like keeping him alive was just such a cliche thing. Without trying to sound rude, they really should have just kept him dead. So that was my review of Tomb Raider. I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Have you guys seen the movie yet? What was your verdict on the movie? Did you guys like it? Did you guys dislike it? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!